Welcome back, guys. The only thing better than a midriff is good mods. Let's make sure we get them. All right. I've got a special guest with me today, guys. He is not on video. He wanted to make this easier, so we're going to do it in voice. But I've got a guy that's one of the top guilds. He is also, and I'm only going to say this once because I hate to admit it, but he's one of the smartest guys I know when it comes to this game. So Dagger, welcome, brother. How are you?
Thanks for having me, and I'm never going to let you forget that you said that.
I know. It's going to get clipped somewhere. I'm never going to live it down. So I call him the 95%er because 95% of the time he's right. So we're going to cover more modding today. We're going to talk about the Galactic Republic, and we're going to start with Padme Amidala. So let's go ahead and get into that, guys. We're going to do the typical routine where we go through and start and discussing their abilities. And keep in mind, as I always say, whenever you have assisting teams, the basic is always used. So starting out with Padme, deal physical damage to target enemy, which can't be evaded. All Galactic Republic allies gain protection up 10%, does not stack with itself for one turn. I know for me, this ability, by giving you that extra basic protection, really saves the day. All right, sorry, guys. I had to pause for a second there. I had something behind me. Dagger, what's your thoughts on this basic?
I think it's solid. I like basics to hit through foresight.
Yeah, see, now why doesn't it say that too? Or I mean, it does say can't be evaded. My bad.
It just can't be evaded.
It does say can't be evaded. Sometimes it's in the wording, and that's what gets me too. So that's why I love bringing you guys on to refresh my memory. And I've had a lot of comments about this as well. So it's a good ability. And
I really like that.
Go ahead.
I really like it in TB because you get the double tap, and because you know they won't evade it. It'll just poke them dead.
Yes. And I mean, you can't beat getting a little bit extra protection on your team as well.
Yeah.
All right, cunning plan. Everybody's familiar with this one. Dispel all debuffs on light side allies, and they recover 50% health for each Galactic Republic ally, and each debuff dispelled from themselves. Galactic Republic allies gain protection up 10%, stacking for one turn. Thoughts on this one, Dagger?
I've used Padme on teams without her lead for this exact ability, and one we'll get to later.
Ah, see, look at the tips. That's what I'm talking about. And then remind me, her Zetas are unwavering courage and always a choice. Is that right? For last two?
Her leadership and her unique.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Graceful Assault. This is the swift kick in the face. Deal physical damage to target enemy and stun them for one turn, which can't be copied or dispelled, which means we do need some potency in order to land this, right? Then call all light side allies with protection up and Jedi Knight Anakin to assist. This is where you start to see where Ahsoka, Anakin, and Snips really start working together on this team, and that's why me and Dagger were talking offline about this. Is there's a four people on this team that are the core of the team, and you can add in a fifth, which we'll get into that hopefully too. But yeah, call all light side allies with protection up, and that's the key word, and Jedi Knight Anakin to assist. So how about this one, Dagger?
I really like that it says that the stun can't be dispelled, which matters against, back in the day, specifically Darth Revan, because they would dispel stun on themselves and turn it into ferocity. Well, they couldn't dispel this taunt, right? Yeah. It's CC that they can't get rid of, so no matter what they have on the other team, you know that that character is basically just out of commission for a turn.
Yeah, when Dagger says CC, he means crowd control, guys. FYI.
Oh, sorry. Yes, my apologies.
Yep. So, yep, when you're up at the top of the echelon and things, it's like working for a big company. There's acronyms everywhere. All right, to the Zeta.
Yes.
Unwavering courage. Light side allies have plus 50% max health, and this is where a lot of the modding comes in with this team. While they have protection up, they resist all debuffs and can't be critically hit. At the start of their turn, Galactic Republic allies dispel protection up buffs on themselves and gain one stack of courage. Another big part of this team. For each 5% protection up dispelled this way, courage can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. When damaging the target enemy with an ability, for each 5 stacks of courage, dispel 5 stacks and deal bonus damage equal to 40% of the target's max health. Now, I think Dagger could probably explain this a little better than I can, so I'm actually going to let him have this because there can be some confusion on how this courage works, such as if you have 17 stacks.
Yeah, so the stacks will always get consumed in increments of 5. But to back up a little bit on it, this is the reason why the team ticks at low gear. Because even though the team doesn't have the offense or the punch, this is the reason why the team is so good all the way through. Because it has the ability to it has its own built-in delete button in Courage.
Mm-hmm.
Courage deals 40% max health damage. per 5 stacks.
Right.
Which means if you have 3 stacks, you're doing 100. If you have 15 stacks, you're doing 120% max health.
Correct.
That means if they didn't have protection, they're dead.
They're dead. Right. And it equates into protection too. And a lot of characters have high protection, so you probably need up to 30 stacks in order to actually one-shot somebody from full protection and health, but it still does, right?
Yeah. I mean, like the percent damage that they're dealing off courage, the 40%, is based off the max health, but they still have to do enough damage to kill the character with protection and everything.
Correct.
Also, remember, this is a nuance, but it's worth mentioning. Her middle and her basic give 10% protection up, but you get courage based on each 5% protection up dispelled.
So you're adding it on top of it.
So you're getting basically 2 per stack.
Right. Yep. That makes sense. Good point. I'm glad you actually said that. See. So there's another thing about courage too. So explain to them why courage doesn't work on guys like Kylo Ren.
So there are characters in this game. Galactic Legends are the flagship of this, where health percent based effects are mitigated versus them.
Yep.
Kylo Ren Unmasked has this. Malik has this. One other thing to mention, and we'll get into this when we get into the mods, protection up is actually based off of your max health.
Right, and
that's something I think a lot of people forget.
Yep, I mentioned that in one of the videos. I can't remember who I was doing when I mentioned that, but you got to keep that in mind. It is based off of that. But what is it with Kylo's kit? He's got takes reduced damage from health damage effects, I believe is the way it reads, something along that line.
Yeah, so damage over time, also known as dots,
right.
Exposes, courage,
right.
Malik's drain.
We'll cover that in the Kylo kit, but a lot of people don't like to take Padme versus the Kylo team, but it actually does really well. It just takes a while to wear them down.
Anakin's buff immunity, which we'll get to later,
exactly,
really helps with that.
Yep, big time.
And heal immunity.
That's the key. If you're going to take them down, you definitely need Anakin or somebody with healing immunity. All right, his last ability from Padme, which is also the Zeta. Padme is immune to fear, which obviously was great for DR. Whenever a light side ally loses protection up, they recover 5% health. Allies can't gain or lose bonus turn meter. Whenever an enemy attacks out of turn against a Galactic Republic ally, that ally gains protection up 10%, does not stack with itself for 1 turn, increased to 40% if Padme is their leader. This protection up cannot be prevented or dispelled. Thoughts on that one, Dagger?
So this goes back to more things that most people should like in kits. Can't be prevented, can't be dispelled. You know this is happening regardless.
Yep.
This is the reason, paired with the cleanse I mentioned earlier, why she's such a good plug-and-play character. Mm-hmm. She's really good at frustrating teams that rely on debuffs or attacks out of turn. And that matters a lot more at my level than it does like when you have everything Relic than it does when you have them like lower gear. But the immune to turn meter manipulation is super clutch against a lot of teams like CLS. Well, you know all your turn meter teams, Emperor Palpatine, etc.
Right. Anybody that's got like the turn meter trains anywhere they can get them. So Imp Troopers is another one, although Imp Troopers can beat a Padme team with a certain lineup, but it definitely does help.
Imp Troopers gain turn meter. She doesn't do anything to stop them from gaining it. Like she stops the Palpatine team from like eating your turn meter. Like Thrawn doesn't take away 50% turn meter when he fractures you. Things like that.
Gotcha. Okay,
right,
yeah, because it's the bonus. Yeah, okay, I got you. Okay, yep. See, I'm glad I said something. This is why I bring this guy on.
The downside is that you also can't gain turn meter, which is annoying when you're using Padme as a plug and play, but a lot of times using her with JMK, who also has the same effect. You can't gain or lose turn meter under JMK, so it's kind of a wash.
So when you get into the upper levels, you start to see, oh my God, where am I going to put my Padme? Because now you're seeing Qui-Gon Jinn, you're pulling Anakin over there. You're pulling GK for multiple different squads, whether it be a GL or for the Jedi team. And Padme is not finding a home for some people, but really, I've seen him in JML squads, and I've seen her in a lot of different places as you said, the non-leader role.
Yeah.
So
she ends up being a nice little plug and play because her entire kit kind of like gives you survivability.
Right, and obviously the working with Galactic Republic is going to be a little more helpful, but her kit does go that round. All right, let's go ahead and go through the modding. So, like we've talked about before, guys, depending on whether you're post or pre-relic, there is going to be some difference with most characters. This one, in my opinion, And I believe Dagger said the same thing. The modding really doesn't change too much for her, no matter where she's at. There are certain speed levels that you're going to want, and I'm going to have the visuals I'm going to edit in here afterward. But for me, the big part of this kit is she is based everywhere around health, and speed. I also like to add potency on to be able to land that kick in specific is a good one. And defense doesn't hurt with her either. So for me, if I can pull the visual down and show you the top end guilds here. The top end guilds, the majority of them, according to GG, it is 58% of the top 100 guilds are doing all health mods all the way across 222. Some of them are doing speed with health, and I think the Dagger's point that we talked offline about is when she is free Relic, you can't get enough speed on her, so you end up having to put speed mods on. But once you get her to Relic, you can adjust that to health. What's your take on that, Dagger?
Yeah, so one of the things to kind of remember is when you get the relics, the health pool specifically is one of the things that kind of goes nuts.
Yes.
So when the Padme team is under gear 13, or maybe just gear 13, the courage is doing the majority of the work.
Yeah.
Right? You're using that as essentially a pseudo nihilist or delete button, so to speak. Once you get them above relics, the courage is like the icing on the cake. It's more, you have a lot more just baked in offense and survivability from the relics. So to what Mort was saying, when Padme's lower gear, like gear 11, gear 12, there is a lot of arguments to putting her in a speed set, maybe even a potency cross to land the kick, because you are relying more heavily on the courage, so you want to make her more of a utility support character.
Yep. And so as for the modding in particular with the, I'm actually going through my mods right now. Let me make sure I got this set up right. I've got her recommended with health circle, health triangle, health or potency cross, like Dagger said a second ago, but I like to spread that health around. A speed arrow, obviously your square and your diamond are always going to be the same, but I'm just passing through the visuals right here. And then I'll show you the stats. And one of the things with her stats is she's got health steal in her mastery. So that's another thing that goes up as well. Mine's running 283. She's got 85.8 health. Not bad, not horrible. Mine's actually running a high 103% because I have a potency mod on her. It's a gamble that I take, but I also, like I said, you can put health or potency on that mod. What's your take on it, Dagger?
Yeah, there's a handful of different ways to do this. I personally have mine in all health sets around 300 speed. 3 health primary, circle, cross, and triangle. I've had a potency cross on her when I use her team, air quotes, right? When we talk about the foursome, if I have plans for her team going into a GAC season, I'll put a potency cross on her because again, the relics make up for a lot of the missing health.
Yep.
And you can even then put like a health arrow on her if you feel like it. But a lot of the people at my level have an R8 Padme because they have Lord Vader. So once you hit R8, like the world's your oyster. You can put a potency cross on her and not lose a whole lot of health.
Yep. Because you stack. Health is one of the biggest ones. Health and damage are two of the biggest ones that really stack once you hit the relic levels. It's unfortunate you can't get any speed once you put the gear 12 mods on, but keep in mind, guys, the right side mods at G12 are going to add 20 speed on any character. If I'm not mistaken, it's every character, right, Dagger?
I think JKL is the only character whose finisher does not have speed.
Really? I did not know that.
So I think he's only 12.
No kidding. All right, I'm glad I asked. So my recommendation is, guys, that you get her at least over 250 when you first get her open, if possible. And then as you get up to the finisher mods and you get up around the 270, 280 minimum for that as well. So what about Relic Priority with her? As you're leveling up, what do you think about Relic Priority? For me, I didn't Relic her till late in the game. For me, I probably, looking back, should have taken her to at least Relic 1 right away. But like you said, she goes for who is Padme? No, I'm trying to think. Is Padme
Lord Vader?
Lord Vader. Is she for Lord Vader? Okay. So a lot of people are not chasing Lord Vader right now because he's taking a hit to his reputation. She does not have a ship. But as for you, what do you think from a scale of 1 to 10 where you'd Relic her?
Well, I'll put it on this scale. She is incidentally tied to the power of your negotiator fleet because the other 3 characters on her team are the core pilots on the negotiator fleet.
Yep.
So when you're building your negotiator fleet, once you get your Anakin, try and keep them relatively the same gear up until about 12. Once you get your GK, Anakin, and Snips to Relic, like we'll say Relic 3.
Yeah.
Right. That means you should take her to gear 13 just to keep the whole team kind of equal
together. Yeah.
But she only needs to be gear 13. Like, obviously, more relics is better. But Anakin, we'll get to it later. Anakin and Ahsoka are the damage dealers, and GK's the tank, and she's the one that stitches it together.
Right. Yep. And that's the way I always played it too. All of my ship characters were Relic before she was. She sat at gear 12. She was the last one I brought up on that squad. So I'm a big fan of that.
I would give her a 6 in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I agree with you too.
But bear in mind that 6 can jump up to an 8 real quick if you have a powerful negotiator fleet.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Which you should have because you need to ship harder. What about the Zeta priority?
That's a little bit tougher because, correct me if I'm wrong, but the unique Zeta only upgrades the protection up. Correct? From 10 to 40% if she's
protection
the leader.
up 10% does not stack with itself for one turn.
So she basically has 2 Zetas that are essentially her leadership.
Yeah.
Right? They only really affect her if she's in the leadership slot.
Right.
So if you're going to be building the team, I think both Zetas are necessary, but her unique is less necessary.
Yeah.
And she has a hidden third Zeta we'll get to when we get to Anakin.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. But yeah, so for me, when I did Padme, she was one of my first teams. So she was my viable team for probably about a year. She was the best I had. So I instantly put both Zetas on her. So I personally highly recommend them. But
yeah, the leadership simply adds that they can't be critically hit while they have protection up. So this is just my opinion on it. But at low gear levels, when you're fighting other people at low gear levels, I don't feel like you're critting for enough damage to justify it.
Good point.
So I would prioritize putting these Zetas on her after you've already kind of built the team out. I wouldn't like put them both on her at gear 9.
Well, in the beginning, everybody was trying to take out DRs, which was already a nightmare anyway. So that's why they were making this a high priority. So that's a very valid point. If you can't afford them right off the bat, this team can still do work without them.
Yeah, because her courage isn't tied to the Zeta.
Right. Yep. 100%. Okay, that's all I got for this, guys. Dagger, do you want to top that off with anything?
Yeah, I was going to mention her unique Zeta with the protection up going from 10% to 40%. Remember that's based off their max health. So maybe don't even put that one on until they're relic.
Yeah.
Like just if you're in that position where you don't have a lot of Zetas. Because I know some people like to spend money on this game, and sometimes you have more relics than you have Zetas.
That's a very good point. And if you got to really slow roll it now with the double shard drops. You can't get enough gear. You can't get enough of the purple pieces specifically. It's hard to get the abilities built up. So yeah, it's a very good tip. The last thing I'll cover, guys, accuracy, defense, penetration, and health steal is the mastery. So keep that in mind. Do we even have a pure understanding of accuracy, Dagger, outside of the fact that, I mean, it goes through dodge? I mean, have we found a use for it yet?
From what I understand, accuracy cancels out evasion masteries. And that's about it.
Yeah.
But her main ability that does damage, like her kick is more for, as I mentioned, for crowd control. You're using it to disable someone from the fight.
Right.
So accuracy on that helps, but the accuracy is only really helping that ability because her basic can't be evaded.
Or if somebody actually has high evasion, like if you're trying to kick Yoda or somebody who's got some decent evasion on him. So there
are characters that have it baked in.
Right, exactly. I think Maul may be another one. There's a few of them, but all right, man, I appreciate that. What do you want to do next? Anakin?
Sure, we can do Anakin next.
All right, Anakin coming up next. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you guys. We are 1 battalion strong. Don't forget, we're almost to 1,000. I brought in the brains. I'd like to say I'm the brawn, but okay, I won't. Till next time.
And sit down.